Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the short delay. Welcome to Business Sustainability Talks, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Namrata, and I'm the co-founder of Shiftico. And we run the Business Sustainability Talks as a platform for us to explore different avenues of sustainability with business leaders from across verticals. Today, our focus is on something extremely important: sustainable finance. Finance really has the ability for us to drive sustainability in a really large way. But before we get started on the topic itself, I would like to welcome our guest for today, Sameera, who has worked a lot in sustainable finance. I will not do justice to Sameera's introduction, so I'll pass it on to you, Sameera, to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your background in sustainable finance.
Namrata, absolutely delighted to be with you today and with all the viewers and listeners.
Yes.
Good to be up in the air because sustainability, is not just a buzzword anymore.
Yeah.
It's a must have. We need to be part of it. Very soon, we have Women's Day coming up, talking about
Yes.
accelerated action. And it's time we all really march forward together in equity to make it possible.
Yes.
I really like these sessions because, this gives our viewers a different perspective, which is really needed when we look at, sustainable finance, impact investing in different dimensions.
Yes.
So,
No.
yeah. So just to tell you about myself, as you know, I'm currently the general manager of SEE&G Advisory, based out of the sustainable city. We are, working on the net zero journey to make cities and the world more sustainable.
That's fantastic.
I'm also on the advisory board of Century Financial, where we focus on, giving and integrating ESG investments
Yeah.
across the business operations.
Right.
Chairperson of the Dubai Chambers, we have the Dubai Stockbrokers and the Investment Services Business Group. Our aim is to attract investments here to the UAE, steer the stockbrokers in the right direction, and hopefully, aim for more partnerships and collaborations.
Right. No, I think you're doing so many different, you're wearing so many different hats, Sameera. Each time I speak to you, you're wearing a new hat. So that's
True.
fantastic. So before we deep dive into the sustainable finance journey, I'd really like our viewers to get to know you and get to know your background. So what drove you towards sustainability? If you can tell us a little bit about your career journey and what attracted you towards working in this field.
Sure. I think the breakthrough happened when I was in Al Ghurair, and this is in the early, I think it was 2006 onwards, with, Dubai being one of the most emerging economies. I was, blessed to work in a diversified sector. So right from your foods to retail, commodities, education, oil and gas, printing and publications, and also, construction, oil and gas industry. So I think, learning how the business operates across the investment sector helped me get a better understanding of, the diversified portfolio we were in. And, prior to that was Sun Microsystems, Nokia, Jet Airways, a long time with Gulf News writing feature articles for the Friday magazine, Paris Gallery for a brief stint, and Century Financial, where it really opened doors to, putting different perspectives of the investment, community, the investment landscape, to also understand how the global scenario is affected by it
Yeah.
and what is the role we can play. And I think that brought things into consideration. Currently, while we are gearing up, steering the way, at CNG Advisory to help companies, institutions towards their net zero journey, it is very, very important for education and academia to really understand what sustainable investments mean and
Yes.
why the future of finance is integrating environmental, social, and governance, but
Yes.
most importantly, environment into the larger portfolio and framework, because this is the future of businesses.
Yes.
We are in for the right reasons, where it makes business sense to have a profitable business, keeping in mind the climate, the environment, and our future generations. And I think that is why sustainable investments and also impact investing is very important to the new generation of entrepreneurs, the industrialists, the education, the educationists to come forward and have these collaborative dialogues.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sustainable finance has a very big role to play. We all know the havoc climate change is causing, and it's
Yes,
very, very imperative that we're investing and using money in a mindful manner, keeping in mind not just profit, but something larger than profit, right? The
true.
environment and sustainability part of it. So, this has been a bit of a, uh, I would say, sustainable finance is a bit of a mindset shift wherein organizations initially were looking at their investments as purely profit driven, and now they have to think of other elements of their investment. So how have you seen this change in mindset in business leaders, and how do you think sustainable investing and sustainable finance is being accepted, because it is a bit of a change management process as well?
Yes. So I think that's a great question to ask, because the question that you have asked is very timely. If we have looked at the news just 2 days back, in early March this year, Wells Fargo, it has abandoned the 2050 net zero emissions target.
Hmm.
And why are they taking such a bold stance all of a sudden? All because, they feel that there are so many critical factors in the ESG, which we claim to have, put under the, larger scope. They feel it is out of their control. They
Hmm.
feel that the commitments that they have already made are not aligned with the actions that they have taken or that they can take.
Right.
And I think, it's well understood when something is beyond our control. It could be, scope 3 emissions, scope 4, scope 5 emissions, something that is beyond. How can we look at, a clear vetting process in the
Hmm.
system? And that's where it goes back to the ESG ratings, the ESG rankings.
Hmm.
I agree that we currently have rankings based on the top 100, 200 companies by certified ranking agencies.
Hmm.
But let's go to the rating criteria. Who decides who belongs?
Yeah.
I mean, let's take a company for example, and when they're given a score by maybe S&P or Moody's or Fitch ratings,
Hmm.
my question to anyone here is, how do you know why as a company are you getting that rating? What is the gap for you not to get a higher rating? And the next question to ask is, how can you combat that rating? What brings you up? Who creates the benchmark?
Right.
And I think this is a question that we all, as educationists and as being in the corporate world, we need to ask ourselves. I think we need to have more clarity in the vetting process. And
Hmm.
if that clarity is not there, the
Hmm.
whole system of ESG ratings, in my humble opinion, is something that needs to have a think through.
Hmm.
And Namrata, let me, I mean, while we are raising a concern,
Hmm.
let me also talk about solutions here, because I believe we are solutionaries and
Yes.
part of the problem. And I think that is where the industry and the academia must come together
Yeah.
and have these open dialogues of where are we in the current portfolio, what sectors are looked at.
Hmm.
There needs to be a contextual rating system. The one that the European standard has is fantastic. But let's ask ourselves a question. Does that make sense to the Middle East, to the GCC region, to Asia?
Hmm.
And that's highly debatable, because the food, the water, the energy, the weather, the climate, the education system, the people, the lifestyle, the economic conditions are not standardized.
Hmm.
So, for that question, does it make sense to have a standardized rating system? And coming back to Wells Fargo again,
Hmm.
their withdrawal from the net zero emissions for the financial portfolio. I think they looked at factors like being out of control, maybe also because of the public policy, the consumer behavior. They looked at emission targets, and I think they had previously also exited from the net zero banking alliance in December this year.
Hmm.
And it drew a lot of outrageous abdication of responsibility.
Right.
But then the question to ask is, you know, is this an emerging growing tension between financial institutions and climate action?
Right. So, if we take a step back and move away from the tension right now and we focus on sustainable finance itself, what are the trends that you're seeing in sustainable finance? And as someone there may be many of our viewers
Yeah.
who don't fully understand sustainable finance. So what are the trends in sustainable finance? How does it link to decarbonization? And what is the corporate sort of responsibility around these things?
Sure. So I think I have 5 areas to share when we talk about trends and what is it that beginners or people who would like to know about the
Yeah.
subject should really know about and understand. I think the first area is stricter regulations when we come to standardizations as well.
Yeah.
Because right now we are using the European Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, which is the SFDR, if people, look at it. And here they look at specific rules with climate disclosure.
Right.
So what is the question, or what is the issue about it? Is this standardized?
Right.
Is it based on specific regulations? Are we, people are arguing about compliance cost to it,
Mm.
and is this a perspective that we need to look at? So stricter regulations is number one. The second is the expansion of biodiversity and nature-based financing. So
Mm.
once again, we are looking at climate change and the biodiversity, which is both interconnected.
Mm.
And I think that is where we need to look at restoration and keep that as part of the game. For
Yeah.
example, you have the TNFD, which is the Task Force on Nature Related Financial Disclosures.
Mm.
But how do they look at it? They launched in 2023, they're gaining a lot of traction. Is there a way for investors to get more attracted in the portfolio that resonates with TNFD at the moment? But some of the critics argue that commodifying this, the nature, commodifying nature itself is
Mm.
something that causes, addresses the root
More.
cause of biodiversity loss.
Right.
The third I would suggest is the increased focus on just transition financing.
Yes.
This has also taken center stage at COP28,
Yeah.
and it's moving with greater emphasis on being socially equitable, particularly for workers in different communities.
Right.
So I think, understanding what are the development banks and private investors doing in this regard, because
Mm.
there are a lot of shareholders who are looking at this perspective, but they see that the efforts currently are inconsistent and insufficient.
Yes.
The fourth is the growth of transition bonds. We look at carbon capture financing.
Mm.
Again, here, I think, we are looking at reducing methane emissions, for example. We are looking
Mm.
at attracting ESG focused investors.
Right.
Does it make sense? Because environmental groups are bringing up concerns that are we, encouraging fossil fuel rather than looking at a rapid shift?
Right.
And I think the fifth trend, which we all agree, is the rise of AI and
Mm.
data-driven ESG
Solution.
perspective, analytics.
Mm.
We are looking at artificial intelligence as part of the big data and looking at integrating it across different sectors. But
Mm.
then the question is also for the financial institutions, how do we really sterilize? How do we vet the process of this data? How do we know it's very authentic? Or
Mm.
are we just throwing out, facts, figures there for the public to look at it? And I think that's where the biggest controversy that we face in our times of data privacy, we look
Mm.
at accuracy, the potential algorithmic bias, when algorithms play a major
Mm.
focus on this, it sparks debate for authenticities.
Right. So there are lots of different things that we need to look at. So if you're looking at the future of sustainable finance, how are financial institutions redefining their role in supporting corporate sustainability? And this has again been it's been a shift in the way they're operating. So how do you think financial institutions are redefining this?
So I think here, first of all, is the market growth.
Mm.
The moment a financial institution can advise or steer a corporate or an industry or a sector in a direction that says,
Mm.
here is where growth focus lies. This is what success is defined. This is your point, not of arrival, but the point of destination of how would success look at
Yeah.
through sustainable finance options. And what is it that would happen if you still go and use the traditional sources of finance?
Right.
So I think a bit of manifestation, giving these industries, guiding them into how success looks through integrating sustainable investment options could be step number one. Thematic investing, is also, currently taking, being the forerunner here. You look
Mm.
at clean energy, you look at renewables, you look at water conservation, you look at social
Yeah.
equality. And I think these are driven by societal norms which look at building the community. For UAE, it is the year of the community. So it makes complete sense to
Hmm.
integrate, ESG, sustainable finance into our offerings when we go out to the bigger, wider communities in the business sector.
Right.
Impact investing, creating funding and direct capital towards projects which are measurable,
Yeah.
and they have this societal and environmental a clear outcome,
Hmm.
is again another norm that we can all follow. And
Hmm.
finally, I think engagement and stewardship is the order of the day.
Right.
Moving from shareholder influence, pushing companies towards ESG practices is something that we can look forward to.
Right. So I think I want to delve a little bit more in the impact investing space because, like I've been saying, like it's a change in the way we are defining success. So it's a more future based approach. Whereas sometimes investors want instant gratification and want quick investments that give them the results, sustainable finance sometimes requires more patience. So, how do you get buy in? What is the business case for sustainable financing?
So, coming to impact investing, although it is a new buzzword from what I see,
Mm.
but this is not really new, Namrata. In fact,
Yeah.
if we go back to our older days in the grassroots, every business started with an aim to do something good in society.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what impact investing is.
Mm.
To redefine the term, it says investments made with the intention of generating measurable positive social and environmental impact
Hmm.
alongside financial returns.
Yes.
So we are not actually talking of something new, because a business, by its definition, needs to solve a community issue, a concern, or a problem. And that's what impact investing is doing, to ensure that there is social, societal, environmental impact being created.
Mm.
Now, when you ask me about the metrics of, how do we define it from from any other investing mechanism,
Hmm.
we have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, the carbon footprint reduction, and other social outcomes.
Mm.
The social outcomes could be as simple as a job creation.
Mm.
It could be as simple as access to education.
Mm.
And these are basics that we are looking at in taking this forward. Currently, we have certain tools in place to
Mm.
measure, to know whether an investment fits into the impact investing portfolio. So you have the GIIN,
Mm.
which is the Global Impact Investing Network Standard. You have the IMP, which is the Impact Management Tool.
Mm.
And these are some of the tools that can help companies and help financial institutions gear and see whether profitability and
Mm.
impact is aligned.
Align. Great. So how what are the effective ways to mobilize capital for climate solutions?
In my perspective, three currently stand out from the rest.
Mm.
Obviously, it's green bonds.
Mm.
You've seen a lot of banks
Mm.
talking, promoting, highlighting green bonds. What are these green bonds to anyone who's listening here? It's basically issuing bonds specifically for funding climate related projects. It could be something on renewable energy, energy
Mm.
efficiency energy initiatives, anything that makes the world a greener place to live in.
Mm.
The second, I believe, is blended finance, not yet gained momentum, still at its nascent stage, a long way to go. But I think combining the public and private capital,
Mm.
to de-risk investments in climate solutions and attract institutional investors is the order of the day.
Mm.
And third, which I feel are the carbon markets, very emerging right now at the moment, leveraging the carbon credits and trading system to incentivize, emission reductions and fund climate projects. And you can see Emirates Airlines, Etihad taking a quantum leap in this area.
Right. So I think that's an interesting point. So how can companies integrate financial instruments like impact investments without compromising returns?
So I think once again, I think it's a very, very simple thing to do. The first one is a diversification of your
Wow.
portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in one basket all the time, which is something that we learn
Mm-hmm.
even in our
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
So let's look at balancing high impact,
Mm-hmm.
low return investments with maybe traditional assets to maintain the equilibrium and
Hmm.
the portfolio performance. The second is, let's look at innovative products. We have the influx of AI coming in. We have a lot of data, the big data coming in. How can we use instruments, for example, the sustainability linked bonds that are
Hmm.
currently very prevalent, to tie into the financial returns and the ESG performance insights?
Hmm.
And finally, which something that I advise everyone on, let's look at a long-term focus.
Yeah.
It's never the short term. You know, I went to the college the other day, and I tell students, invest when you are young, invest small amounts, leverage the power
Hmm.
of compounding.
Yes.
And the moment you look at long-term focus, you're emphasizing on the resilience, you're looking at growth potential for sustainable investments. And this could be, you spreading yourself far and wide, which is the order of the day, so that then you learn and grow
Hmm.
with your investment portfolio.
That's very, very wise advice. And I wish
Yeah.
more people told students that.
Yeah.
So, focusing a little on the education part of it, I know you do a lot of work in the education part as well. So, tell us a little bit about how you're working with colleges and building this knowledge literacy about sustainable investing.
So, something that's really close to my heart, financial inclusion, and I'm so glad you have touched on this
Mm,
topic. So, it started with Century Financial and, holding sustainability and
mm,
financial inclusion at the core of what they do. And that's when we came out with the Financial Freedom for All in
mm.
association with the United Nations PRME, which is the Principles for Responsible Management in Education.
Okay.
And being a company which focuses on providing sound investment knowledge,
Hmm.
guiding our investors towards the right diversified portfolios currently available in the marketplace, it was our duty to reach out to other segments of the industry as well.
Right.
So we targeted the blue collar workers, or commonly called the frontline workers,
Nice.
because I think when we did a study with the University of Dubai, we
Mm,
found out that rather than saving a portion of their money, it was rather used on things that were not really viable or conducive with them,
mm,
in a way that they were left with hardly anything to take back in their retirement when they left home. So
mm.
our point was, how can we work on enhancing their efforts, educating them better? So that's when we started the Financial Freedom for All in 108 languages, in
Lovely.
partnership with over 30 universities and over 50 companies
Nice.
joining us. We have almost all the companies who have the labor camps signed into this. We work very closely with them, imparting sound financial knowledge
Nice.
and techniques, but most importantly, giving them a better understanding through, fun learning, edutainment experiences. So
Right.
that's number one in terms of financial inclusion. The second is for entrepreneurs,
Mm,
where we go out and teach entrepreneurs. We go to different conferences and talk about the power of sustainable investments, impact investing,
mm.
and how all owners should actually look at opening their eyes to integrating this in their financial decision making. The
Right.
third was women,
Mm.
where we go and empower the women. We are doing a sustainable art event this Women's Day, where we
Nice.
are empowering not just women but the men as well towards an equitable future,
Mm.
process of talking about march forward towards accelerated growth,
Right.
bringing them together. And fourth is the universities, the
Right.
colleges. We have gone to right from the Canadian University, University of Dubai, now spreading out to Abu Dhabi as well,
Mm.
where we look at talking about ESG investing and
Too.
why it is very important to ingrain these concepts right from the very
Right.
beginning.
That sounds like fantastic work, Samira. You seem to be working with a lot of different audiences. And I want to kind of understand how was the project you did with the frontline workers? What was the response? And how have you seen the shift or the change based on this knowledge? Is there any tracking mechanism or any impact that you can share with us?
So what we have done to ensure it is a sustainable model,
Mm-hmm.
Century Financial has tied up with and partnered with educational institutions and corporates. So
Nice.
we provide the financial literacy in terms of the knowledge.
Knowledge.
We get the financial knowledge through a facilitation with the top universities which are recognized by the UNPRME.
Right.
Once we get this knowledge, we compile it in a presentable form for
Mm.
the Train the Trainer
Right.
program. And
Curriculum.
then what we do is we invite companies, over 50 companies with us now, who have come forward giving us their volunteers.
Right.
We train the volunteers, give them the books, give them the content to go through, have these ongoing sessions with them to empower them. And then they go back to their companies and then
Mm.
they provide the training, the arms
Mm.
and ammunition to their labor force to keep it going.
That's lovely.
We felt that this was a more sustainable model so that we can pay it forward.
Yeah.
So we are currently working on version 2 of the campaign, where now we are coming out with actionable steps.
Right.
And also, because it is the year of community,
Yeah.
we are looking at how the Dubai government, through the public and private partnership, also the Knowledge Development Authority, the Ministry of Education, we can all collaborate together
Mm-hmm.
and then work together as a unified force in empowering these four stakeholder communities that we have so that we
Lovely.
all grow together.
And how many frontline workers would have been through this training program?
We have around 20,000 workers who
Nice.
are already committed to the program through different companies.
Mm.
And we see this going, we see a lot of inquiries coming in where everyone is interested to learn more and do more.
Nice.
So I think it's an ongoing process with collaboration from industry and academia.
Nice. I think for me, the next question was a lot about sustainability, is about education awareness. And you seem to be doing a lot in that realm. So kudos to you on that. That's
Thank you.
really great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, so if we take a step back, Sameera, and I want to think a little bit about the future of sustainable finance. You're absolutely right. Sustainable finance is not a new term.
Yeah.
It's something that people have been hearing of, but I don't know if everyone truly understands it as much, right? So what do you think is the future of sustainable finance, and what role does regulation have?
Sure. So I think I would like to talk about three dimensions here. One is obviously the UAE leadership,
Yeah.
which is very close to our heart. You know, it's so beautiful to see the UAE leadership and the visionaries who have already positioned the UAE as a global hub for sustainable finance. We have the Dubai Sustainable Finance Working Group, which was very active during COP28. We now have the Global Sustainable Finance and Investment Summit coming up on the 23rd of April
Okay.
at the SEE Institute,
Mm.
inviting over 500 to 800, educationists and corporates and banks and
Mm.
financial institutions to come together for a roundtable where we are forming the Global Sustainable Finance and Investment Working Group.
Right.
I think the global growth for this as well is taking a fast track approach, and we can see this expanding globally, whether it
Mm.
is our green bonds, your ESG funds, or even climate resilient investments. And finally, the regulatory push, which is most important. We can see that the UAE and the global markets are seeing stricter ESG regulations. There's a lot of standardization of the reporting frameworks, which is great because then it curbs greenwashing and
Yes.
transparency, enhances transparency.
Yeah.
So that's the government and the visionaries behind who are, doing an excellent, incredible, and amazing job in taking it forward.
Yeah.
What's the next step? The next step is the role of the business community and
Mm.
also individuals in promoting this, concept of impact investing. You have businesses who are adopting ESG principles in their from sustainability to the ESG reports. You have individuals who are choosing funds which are more compliant with sustainability, engaging in shareholder advocacy, raising awareness on sustainable finance.
Mm.
And then you have the collaboration of the companies, the NGOs, the governments,
Mm.
and the financial institutions in taking this forward.
Right. So there seemed to be a lot going on in the prediction. So if you had predictions and implications for ESG under the global sort of changes in the administrations, how do you think it's going to impact the global landscape? How do you see it shaping the future trends that you're on?
Well, I think, when we talk about, predictions, all I can say the safe bet is innovation.
Mm.
So for me, we talk about digital banking, for example,
Yep.
and it's moved to fintech platforms. We are all talking about even helping the underdeserved communities, the population in rural areas. We're talking about microfinance, providing small loans to these entrepreneurs, to low income individuals and smaller businesses. Community partnerships is so
Mhm.
important because we can see NGOs collaborating with businesses and individuals and the community. Blockchain technology is huge. We can see, using decentralized finance, to provide more transparent and low cost financial services to
Mm.
the, I call it the unbanked population.
Right.
The pay as you go model works incredibly well everywhere. Flexible payments, pay as you go for essential services.
Mm.
And I think, ensuring sustainability helps to take care of the community, to, lessen the burden of economic disruptions, is a prediction that I think we all should look forward towards
Mm.
unification rather than,
Mm.
creating more disparities.
Right. So, if we had to take a step back, a lot of people that are attending the session today come from mixed backgrounds and different industries. So, if we had to deep dive into the financial industry and say what's worked really well for the financial industry for driving sustainability currently, and what could be learnings that other industries can also so what according to you would be these strengths and these areas for improvement, so to say?
Sure. So I think using first of all simplified
Mm.
mechanisms is important. This is not a complex subject at all. In fact, we're just going back to the roots. And I
Mm.
think that is where we need to have a very, very clear understanding of what are we talking about when we talk about sustainable investing and impact investments.
Mm.
Sometimes when I go to speak at conferences, some of the people before the session tell me, "Oh, this is finance. I don't want to know anything about finance. I leave it to
Mm.
my husband. I leave it to the man of the house. I leave it to the partner. I don't get involved." And mind you, Namrata, she is the CEO of a company.
Yeah.
They're doing huge there. She's
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. She's
Yeah.
actually earning more, sometimes even the bread earner of the family.
Right.
But why is it that, it's especially most women,
Mm.
men as well, but most women, do not want to go anywhere near it?
Right.
And that is why I would like to share three bits of advice to
Okay.
everyone in this
Sure.
area.
Sure.
So I think the first one is set clear goals.
Mm.
If we really know what we want in life, and move out from the noise and stay focused on our approach,
Mm.
trust me, you will love the world of finance, because then it makes complete sense.
Mm.
The I think the issue we have right now is there's so much of terminology, so much of noise. People get frustrated when they see numbers as a whole.
Mm.
But if you understand how these numbers can really add value
Mm.
to your bigger business objective,
Mm.
and see the impact in that, that is, I think, the first way forward.
Mm.
So define measurable sustainability targets. It could be as simple as a company's net zero emissions, because
Mm.
otherwise you're paying more. And
Mm.
sustainability translates into economic viability.
Right.
There's a big misconception in the market that if you need to be sustainable, you need to pay more. But moving forward, that's not true. And now we have a lot of proven case studies, which we will also be exhibiting at the C conference
Right.
coming up, in April.
Are there any you want to share with us?
We have the sustainable city, which
Yeah.
is a proof of concept to show how it is already, transformed into a net zero city, and
Right.
how we are empowering. We have the Sharjah sustainable city.
Yes.
We have in Abu Dhabi the sustainable city in Abu Dhabi, in
Mm.
Oman, and now we surprisingly have a lot of developers, builders from
Mm.
different parts of the world coming to us and saying that they would like to have, for example, a sustainable city in Canada, in Montreal, in Portugal, in
Mm.
different places of the world. Why is this happening?
Mm.
I mean, it's only when, these builders, these financiers, the financial institutions
Mm.
have realized the changing shift and the transition,
In.
that is where change occurs.
Yeah.
The second I would like to talk about is leveraging technology.
Mm.
I think it's high time we, ditch the manual way of working.
Yeah.
We start leveraging on what we have with us. We use data analytics, and AI to fast track on ESG performance, identify the risk, and uncover sustainable investment opportunities is number
Mm.
two. And I think finally, this is what I would like to end with. It's let's look at communication and engagement on all fronts. Because I think when we engage with stakeholders, have these open discussions, it could be your employees,
Mm,
investors, the customers. Let's look at sustainability initiatives and build trust and a long term commitment.
right.
And that is our answer to making this, sustainable finance and impact investing a success.
Right. So I think these are really good tips. If there's a company that's starting their sustainability journey, Sameera, what would be your recommendations for them to start the journey? Sometimes starting on this net zero journey is very intimidating,
Sure.
and there's so much information and knowledge out there that it can be overwhelming. That, oh, where
Yes.
do I start? So could you help guide anyone in the audience who would want to start this journey? And I know I'm asking questions on behalf of the audience, but there will be some 5-10 minutes for you to also think of questions. So please feel free to type it in the chat and we'll make sure we address those as well.
Certainly. And I think let's talk about what is the role we can play.
Mm,
We have different sessions being organized based on different sectors.
mm,
Currently, we look at the six sectors which are completely into, a strong, when it comes to carbon emissions, when it looks to, they look at their net zero journey where they need some kind of guidance.
mm.
So at CNG Advisory, we offer, free workshops, complimentary workshops,
Right.
but those are sector specific. And
Mm,
we take a deep dive into the context of it
right.
because Namrata, one size doesn't fit all
Definitely.
throughout, and we do not want companies to waste time reinventing the wheel.
Right.
So if there is any way we can support, we are Dubai based, we are easily accessible, we have a wonderful team, we're
Mm,
all ready to go out to these companies and share what a net zero journey means.
mm,
And then secondly, translate it into a narrative for their sector or their business or
mm,
their role. And then we provide a assessment, a
mm,
free assessment where, a toolkit where we invite companies to join us so that they can evaluate themselves and say, where do they stand currently?
mm.
The toolkit also helps in identifying areas of where they should focus on to become more sustainable
Yeah.
and align with the government's vision.
Right.
And after that, if they need resources and help, we are all out to support. But
Right.
I think it is very important to start with, self evaluation.
Self-evaluation.
Do the toolkit. I mean, work on it, see how whether it makes sense.
Hmm.
Show us where you stand. We are here to come. We are engaging in
Mm.
a lot of programs and workshops with the education sector,
Right.
so we can even invite companies to come and join these
Programs.
these programs. Let's look at collaboration with education and industry, and then these companies can use the interns that are
Right.
currently available, to ensure that they are completely aligned and work on the journey.
Right.
We are not asking companies to invest more in their staff, in their training programs, but I
Mm.
think creating this awareness, integrating it with the resources that are currently present,
Mm.
creating a win win solution for differential internships between the youth. We are talking about youth innovation and sustainability,
Mm.
the year of community. Let's engage the youth in our own companies.
Right.
Give them this platform, let them help us with the assessment so they will also learn.
Mm.
And then the company best benefits by creating these benchmarks.
Right. No, that's great advice, and I'm amazed to see the kind of resources the C Institute and y'all are providing to companies. And I think this collaboration with education is a very interesting one. Given we're at the kind of end of this session, Sameera, what advice would you have for people as individuals, not as companies
Yeah.
now, to engage with impact investing?
So I think the very fact that you have invited me here says a lot, because from being a very isolated topic,
Mm-hmm.
kept only for the financial professionals, we see a big shift and transition right now where individuals, students,
Hmm.
women entrepreneurs as
Hmm.
a whole want to engage in green financing options. They want to explore it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I think your company is playing a major role in engaging with thought leaders and imparting this information,
Yeah.
because today awareness is key.
Mm-hmm.
But while we have an information overload on most areas, it
Hmm.
is also important, for companies like ours, or, influencers like us, to narrow down and to help companies, to help individuals
Hmm.
focus on their bigger goals,
Hmm.
know what is their bigger purpose, and then we can help them align it through these different options that are currently available in the market.
Right.
Sustainable investments should be on your right hand as your close friend,
Hmm.
not far away in the cupboard, put in the cupboard, because I
Hmm.
think this is the key to, blending a wonderful integration
Hmm.
with nature,
Hmm.
with resources, with economic sense. And that is why, the future is blending in the economic viability of sustainability
Right.
for an individual, a corporate, or even a sector. And that's the way forward.
No, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And we have some questions that the audience has also asked you, Sameera. So
Certainly.
we'll jump into that. We have a question where people are saying, I'd love to know more about your role at CNG's role towards a net zero journey. And if you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So, I've been with them very recently
Mm-hmm.
with CNG taken on as the general manager of the company. It's
Mm-hmm.
very humbling because we focus on construction, real estate, we focus on manufacturing, retail, built-in environment. And I think it's very important that we hold hands of financial institutions as well
Mm.
to ensure that we all start working on the net zero journey. The issue, what we have seen currently, is there's so much of talk, but having this accelerated action, walking the talk, could be a bit challenging. We
Mm.
understand that because we have all grown in this direction,
Mm.
and I think that is where the industry needs to also take the help of, experts or thought leaders who have been in this field to gently maneuver them through this process so that
Mm.
the roadmap that they put in place can be well executed and impactful.
Right. Great. We also have another question where someone's saying, you mentioned that a shift from a solely profit-driven mindset to an impact-driven one is very important. Do you believe this transition is happening at a sufficient pace? It's a loaded question.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I think the very fact that this has been, is taking center stage now,
Mm-hmm.
wherever we go, whoever we talk to, whatever we are looking at curating, creating, is all about impact.
Mm.
And I think that itself is the first step of creating impact when we can change the narrative and start the dialogue.
Mm.
There was a time before where business only spoke about profitability,
Right.
and I think we have lived through those days and times. And it's good and very humbling to see that our generation, Namrata,
Mm.
can openly address, be very, very transparent about how a business could function
Mm.
to an extent where, businesses and investors are pulling out from, ESG
Mm.
compliance at the moment for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I think, still being part of the dialogue, having a positive and a negative shift, keeping the conversation going enables our young generation and future leaders to really be responsible in making the right decisions. And
Absolutely.
I think facilitating and opening that dialogue is one of the biggest impactful ways that we can center the conversations around for them to be forward thinkers in this direction.
No, absolutely. I think the future generation being engaged and understanding the gravity is so important. So I think dialogue is a very, very important element. Um, we have another question about how it's focused on Century Financial. How is Century Financial supporting SMEs and sustainability? Are there any programs or initiatives in place for that?
So every quarter, Century Financial invites SMEs to
Mm.
our own office, based out of Imar Square,
Mm-hmm.
downtown Dubai,
Mm-hmm.
where we conduct sessions on, supporting the SMEs
Mm.
in various investment decisions and strategies.
Mm-hmm.
We provide them offerings, we provide them options, we also give them, a better scenario of what is happening at a global level, and also facilitating and telling them as to how they could integrate some of these strategies into their investment decisions at the moment.
Right.
So all are welcome to join us.
Nice. Great.
You can always connect with me on LinkedIn or any of the social media platforms, and I will connect you internally. We are also having constant webinars, seminars on current global trends in the marketplace,
Nice.
how companies are being impacted, and what can you can do to keep yourself, and navigate and mitigate any of the risk that you're currently facing. So it is really encouraging and inspiring and educative to be part of these seminars and learn from them. And all of them are free, of course.
Mm.
You can log in online or come to the office for a visit.
Nice, that's great. I think all SMEs need help, and it's nice to see corporations champion that support.
Thank you.
So now that we're at the end of the session, Sameera, is there any last comments, last thoughts that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Sure. I think stay tuned, stay connected. Do not run away from topics of investments. Rather, take one step forward in this direction. It could be a small step, but please take that step, because you're not empowering yourself alone. You're empowering your communities, you're empowering your future generations, and most importantly, you're empowering yourselves. Sustainable finance and impact investing are not buzzwords.
Mm.
They were something that took center stage, much beyond and much before our times. It will always continue to stay. Maybe ESG investing, the word ESG might sound a bit, a new word that has suddenly come into force right now. But remember that when you do something that is sustainable and good for the planet,
Mhm.
it automatically translates into you being a sustainable investor and creating impact wherever you go.
Perfect. That's such a lovely ending. Thank you so much, Sameera.
Thank you,
I
Namrata.
personally really enjoyed the session. I'm sure everyone watching would have also enjoyed it too. Thank you again for making the time. I know it's a busy time, so we really appreciate you taking this time to build this dialogue and build this engagement with sustainable finance and investing, a very, very critical topic, especially given today's time. I'd like to thank all of you who joined the session. The idea of business sustainability talks is to continue building dialogue, to give you a platform to help connect and hear from leading sustainability professionals, to give you a platform to ask questions to these leading professionals, and to understand sustainability from different lenses. So stay tuned. We run these sessions every month or every other month. Follow Shift Eco, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session. If you have any specific topics that you'd be interested in, please feel free to message me personally or email hello@shifteco.ae. We want to make content that aligns with your interests. We want to cover topics that are of great interest to you. So please write to us, and we'd love to see you at our next session. Thank you again.